Hello, welcome to VIE Speaks, Conversations with Heart and Soul. I am Lisa Burwell, your host, and I am very excited to be speaking with our guest today, Tiffanie Nelson, the founder of Food for Thought, a nonprofit organization that has done tremendously good works and continues to do so, and we'll learn all about it. Welcome to the podcast, Tiffanie.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we've had some nice conversation before. I wish that was being filmed too, but we'll keep going.
I'd hoped it was secretly being filmed.
Yes. I don't know. I don't think so. But so Tiffanie, tell us about 11 years ago, how did that happen? You had this desire or need to start your nonprofit to feed those in need, children in particular, and tell us a story about how it all began.
Sure. So for me, it began a little before that. I, at that moment in my life, was a single mother. I had 2 children. My daughter was in diapers and my son was getting ready to go to kindergarten. And I wanted to do something with them, with our community that represented our faith outside of just going to church. I didn't know what that was, but the calling was there for me. And I was looking. And then when my son started kindergarten and I brought home all these forms for him to go, he's my firstborn baby. I think probably all they want to know is what his favorite color is and what does he like to do? But all the questions were about our needs. What were our needs? And very naively as a parent, I just thought, if this is the most important thing, what does this mean? What are all these questions about our homeless status and our financial need for food support? And I just really went home and Googled everything I could about what these questions meant. And food insecurity was the term that popped up over and over. And it talked about how children in our country are missing meals because of the financials in their home. The only time they really have access to food is their free and reduced meal plan at school. And all of that paperwork at school helps them get enrolled in those programs. And it touched me because I knew I was fortunate. I had a good job. I've always been ambitious and I was able to provide for my kids as a single mother, but I was well aware of the risk there if we lost a check or I couldn't work. And I felt instantly, how difficult must that be to send your kid to school and not have any food? So I knew I wanted to do something. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to help. My pastor gave me $300 from their community fund and said, good luck, go figure it out. We trust you. Mm-hmm. I called the principal at my son's school and now they don't always take my call, but now she takes my call and we have this amazing conversation about how she has kids struggling to learn because they're starving, but because of these percentages required by the government, at 30% of her kids being food insecure, they weren't qualifying for any other assistance, which felt wrong.
Yeah. So did you actually... Obviously, you felt it. There was a seed that was planted in you from the get-go. You had compassion and empathy for a plight of others, not yourself. Mm-hmm. But then along the road at the beginning, did you also see, oh, my son's friend doesn't have food? Like, would you actually see the problem, or did you just know about it statistically from reading this application form?
Mm-hmm. I didn't see it myself in the beginning. But the principal of his school did. And we had a very intimate conversation about what it's like for her to try to reach these kids and help these kids without assistance. And that was really all I needed. And I just went with my kids and we shopped. And today still I have a picture of 6 bags on my kitchen floor filled with food. She helped us identify 6 kids that were their parents were willing to let us help. And we fed them. I took my kids with me to say, what would you want to eat? Right. They were my test subjects. Could you carry this bag? If you had to carry your backpack, could you carry this food?
That's amazing.
It's that simply how we started.
Amazing.
With 6 kids and $300 11 years ago.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And so there's so much to say about the beginning, but let's just, on the heels of that, fast forward to right now. You have a 5,000 square foot pantry, facility, kitchen. I mean, what would you call that? Just like the distribution center?
Yeah, we call it a pantry.
Okay.
Technically, it's probably our home office. Yeah. Yeah, it's home base, but we call it a pantry. We have pretty humble roots at Food for Thought.
Right. The name Food for Thought, obviously, it's just like something you would say, oh, food for thought, you know, when you're thinking about something or should be thinking of something. Yeah. How did you come up with that?
It was a suggestion from a church member. So much of what we have become were just suggestions along the way to get us to the place so that we could get 501c3 status. But they're all gifts, you know, now, including our logo of, you know, oh, we need a website, we need a logo, all the things that you have to do to incorporate. They just felt like check marks at the time, but now they're synonymous with who we are. Wow.
So from the beginning with going shopping with your kids, then was it a steady progression of building and identifying more people that were in need?
It was pretty instant. You know, I mean, I think people flocked together and like groups, and we started helping those couple of kids. And it wasn't but maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and that was already up to 16 kids and 36 kids. And by the end of that first school year, the next school had called and said, hey, I heard you were doing this thing. And this was this thing I was doing in my quote unquote spare time as a single full-time working mother.
Yes. Lots of free time.
Yeah. I mean, but I was so passionate. I mean, that's what I would do at night, all night long. And so much of the systems that we have today, 11 years later, are still based in that everybody has to come together to help methodology. And so I couldn't be there all the time to do the work of Food for Thought. I had to teach people how to do it and then trust them to do it. And there's still a lot of that in our world.
Right. And I know that our community seemingly has rallied around you. Was that a rallying cry from the beginning as well, where other moms would help? Or was that something that you kind of had to sell?
It was fairly easy. Okay. There's always those angels that come alongside and see what you're doing and believe in you. I was probably even more introverted then than I am now. And so it was hard. But there were a few friends that sort of introduced me to the next. And really, people were just showing up to my house with food, and we were packing on my dining room table. I mean, I have pictures of that just covered in food. And someone suggested maybe we should put these in backpacks, and we were using those sort of reusable grocery bags. And so then we bought backpacks, and it was very organic. And in that first year, never would I have imagined that we'd be at this place. It was not my intention. And I probably didn't even understand this level of nonprofit work was available to me.
Right.
But a few years in, it became evident that somebody was going to have to take the lead of the organization. The demand was too great.
Right. And nobody was filling it. So you, as a good Samaritan, a one-woman show, did what you did, and which is such a great testament to you. It also is showing the world that one person can do a lot. And, you know, everyone sort of has this attitude like, oh, what can I do? I'm just me. I'm one person. But if everyone thought like you, the world could do a lot.
We can. And starting to come at Food for Thought as my job was the biggest risk I think I've ever taken in my life. You know, the money that we had raised at that point was pretty minimal. And I had built a secureness in my salary to provide for my children, but I was looking for someone else to run the organization, and I wasn't finding them. And one of my board members at the time said, well, do you think that's because that's what you're supposed to do? And it did not originally occur to me that I should do it. And I'm going to tell you a real life story I have not told many times, but in those years, I lived pretty close to the beach, and I used to sort of think through things along the beach. And I was walking along the beach, and I had to make this decision. The board meeting was coming. I was very scared. Knew I was going to be taking a financial cut. But I also felt compelled to do it. And so I was praying along my walk, and I stopped. It was time to go in. And I stopped and just sort of looked out at the water. My eyes were closed. And this is real. I felt something on my foot, and I looked down, and a very old seaweed-covered dollar bill washed up on my feet. And if there was not a better sign to say I will provide
oh my gosh,
than that, and that sealed the deal for me. And I let that dollar bill stay in the water because I felt like it probably needed to give someone else a sign one day.
Okay.
And I took the leap, and I figured what I'm doing is good. And if it doesn't work, someone will hire me.
Right.
And no one's going to let us become homeless. And that
huge
was
leap of faith.
Huge. And 6 months into it, we had tripled what we'd raised in the past, and we'd gone from 100 students to over 300. And so I knew I had done what was right.
Yes.
For my life and for the organization.
Yes. What a beautiful story, and so inspiring. I mean, I didn't know you very well for a while. We've written about you in the magazine a couple of times over the last 10 years or so. And I always just, when the articles would be finished in the magazine, I would always look at them and go, oh, it's something like more, like it just doesn't seem like it's like getting like the whole story out, which is why I wanted to talk to you in person, a new layer to the storytelling, and talking to you, I think, brings it to life. So how long did it take you from the idea to actually incorporating and filing your?
That happened rather quickly. Only because I think I just had good mentors along the way that said, if you're going to do something like this, you need to incorporate. It was months.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge life change for you. And then obviously, thank God for these kids now, 300 kids. And in reading up last night, the kids are being fed, during the school year, September to May, right? Or June. And then the summer, and then you have a summer program too. Yes,
ma'am. We have a summer program that we're in right now. And when I left the office to come here, the team was going out to do services today. So the summer is everything we do is a passion, but I love to talk about the summer because, an average food insecure child is going to miss 110 meals during summer vacation because they're removed from that breakfast and lunch. And some communities offer programs, but they require such rigorous transportation that especially in our communities that are so spread out, it's very difficult. So we work hard to get into the community and get as close to them after work so that they can get to us. Right. Or we have other times that are before work that are very, very early. But we recognize that most of the people we're serving have hardworking parents that are just trying to make ends meet. And if you're offering services in the middle of the day, they can't get there. And 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds can't walk to the school cafeteria, and there's no way to get there. So, our summer programs have been around from the beginning, and we give out nearly a month's worth of food at every drop off because we understand that the next date, they may not have a ride to that date. So we think pretty logistically about our services when we're not delivering directly to the school. And thank goodness we had all that practice with summer and Thanksgiving and Christmas, because when we got to the pandemic, we relied on that practice to figure out how to serve kids when we're not in school.
And how many kids were you able to feed during the pandemic? The same amount? I mean, that had to be so difficult money-wise, even being able to leave your house and all of the circumstances.
So we have a core value around anonymity at Food for Thought. So while we enroll kids who are food insecure, that information stays at the school and we work off numbers. And so the school is the liaison of communication. And the biggest hurdle that we had really was, how do we communicate? I mean, schools closed like that. There was no buffer to say, do you need anything from the classroom? They are just done. So instantly, we didn't have a way to communicate with the families that we were going to still serve them just in a different manner. So we worked really hard, and we didn't miss a week, amazingly.
Wow.
But by some good, hard working partners at some of our schools helped us to reach some families. We found a texting system where we could remain anonymous but still communicate with the families. And no, we were not able to serve 3,500 kids a week during the pandemic months, not because we didn't want to or we didn't have the resources. We just couldn't get to them or they couldn't get to us.
Right.
But we were serving close to 3,000.
Wow.
So we were missing some, but not all.
Mm-hmm.
And we were still doing curbside services for 50% of our work until the last week of school. We're only partially back at some schools.
Right. I remember one time when we were talking fairly recently that you said, I would be really shocked to know who and like how many people really are compromised and needing. The need is so great.
Yes.
And when we've written articles about you in the magazine too, we've been sensitive and obviously didn't want to like, showcase like poster people that, are in a dire need or whatever. And the shame factor is always involved in this too. So, but part of that in storytelling in a magazine is very difficult because like out of sight, out of mind, I don't see like kids that are adorable and cute that don't have food or, because you're not going to do that. But so then how do you educate people that have means that can help financially or, just showing up and helping in other ways when it's an out of sight, out of mind thing? How do you do that?
Our volunteer base does so much for us. So pre-pandemic, we would schedule 250 hours of volunteerism a week. Every week we're talking thousands of volunteer hours. So when I go out and speak to groups or even casually, I really don't ask for money. I ask for them to come first and see the facility, and then second, go do a service with us. And it's rare for me to take someone of those kind of means into the pantry and for them to not have an emotional reaction. And I get emotional still when I buy the food. And I think it's because you really get into the fact that we're talking about peanut butter and jelly, canned tuna. Like this is what people are anxiously awaiting. And I think the reality of it hits fast. And then we can take them to a school, maybe where their kids go to school, and deliver 300 backpacks. And that makes it very real. And I can talk statistics until people fall asleep. But the more powerful thing I can do for them is to take them out into the community and show them something they've never seen before.
Yes.
And I have a few friends that, have been with me along the way. And we've always talked in the holidays that we think it should be mandatory viewing for all of Walton County to see what happens at Food for Thought during the holidays. It's very humbling.
Yes.
And folks feel the need to explain themselves, which they don't need to. But these are the cashiers at the grocery store that need help. They are the waiters and waitresses that are just trying their best, or someone that has a different kind of job that's not having the best year. We certainly don't live in an affordable place, and housing is tough. And where it is somewhat affordable to live, that's not where the jobs are. And we have to call it like it is. There's just no way to get easily transportation from an affordable place to live to where the most high-paying job is in this particular county. And so that's a lot of the creation of need. And I don't meet people that don't have jobs. I meet people that are apologizing to me that they haven't been able to make enough money this month. And want to provide for their children.
Right.
And are thankful to have an easy place to get help.
Right. So amazing. So in the last 2 years, definitely the last year, the prices of real estate keep going up and up in our area, which was always a well-heeled, financially secure for most people or many, has even skyrocketed way beyond that. So now I would imagine the disparity is growing. It is bigger and bigger.
Drastically, especially in our particular county where we're having this conversation. We are in the top 10 counties in the country for income disparity now.
That's just blows my mind.
It blows my mind as well. But we are attracting in these beachfront homes, CEOs and business owners, and they bring in that money. But that doesn't change what's available to people who are working hourly jobs. That doesn't have an impact on them. What it is going to do in the future is probably make their rent go up. Or they could be like my own mother, who's retired and on a fixed income. And, the place she lived in for a very long time decided to, sell, and she had about 2 weeks to get out, So I think these things are great for some and very difficult for others. And we're here to help people meet them where they're at and help them in their time of need.
Well, I mean, obviously, in the business that you're in and the mission field that you're in, you need finances to keep going and feed more and, keep doing the good work that you're doing. And I know that the pandemic was like the worst year a nonprofit organization could possibly have. And what kind of year are you having now that we kind of have coming back out into the light now in the last maybe 4 months or 5 months that the vaccine is out and people seem to be moving on? How is that going?
I'm not seeing an immediate change and for us. So I think part of it is the scale that we're at. And this is something that people don't often think about at Food for Thought. So we feed 3,500 children a week. They get no less than 10 food items from us a week. The volume of purchasing that we're doing is greatly impacted by the pandemic. So we buy from a broker, and we have all kinds of food deals, but all those warehouse workers have been impacted by COVID. Drivers have been impacted by COVID. There's a lot of food that's been put on restriction. So our cost of food was up almost 40% in the past year, which is in keeping with the world price of groceries is up 40%.
It just doesn't make sense.
So
it's just not making sense.
I right now today can't say that I see an impact that way. It is getting a little bit easier to get our food. We struggled for nearly 6 months to even get an order fully fulfilled.
Wow.
So we're making substitutions, and that becomes very expensive when you're talking about
volume.
Yeah. What I see on the horizon is that I believe we're going to be able to operate the way we did before the pandemic during this school year. I believe we're going to see at least a 10% increase in enrollment. And I think fundraising will get slightly easier. Right. Our community loves some events,
right,
and those are coming back.
Right.
And it gives me the platform to talk about Food for Thought.
Yeah, education. Well, let's talk about your upcoming fundraiser, Stock the Pantry. Give us a little info about that so that people can get involved. Everyone listening and watching, please get involved.
So Stock the Pantry is a surprisingly competitive yet very fun event that started 8 years ago. And it is a competition for a food drive. And people are competing for first, second, and third place now to say that they brought in the most food, and they get this really great food trophy. But what happens this time of the year is our pantry is empty come August. And in order to start the school year, we need some help getting food in the pantry and raising funds. Last year, we did Stock the Pantry completely virtually, and it was our best fundraiser ever. We raised, 6 figures. It was incredible. But the competition, I was live on Facebook doing the event, and people were texting me wanting to know if they were going to win.
Really? That's so funny.
And people started contacting me in May, when are you going to release Stock the Pantry? We want a spot.
Right.
So it's quite incredible. Yeah. We get over 100,000 food items at that event.
Okay.
So you can either have a virtual fundraising team as a business or a group, or an actual food team.
Okay.
And then we're just competing there for numbers.
Okay. Well, I am going to say this on our podcast right now that VIE Magazine is going to do it. I don't know if we're going to do the digital or the stock, but I'll talk to you a little bit after this. And so we're game and we're up for the competition.
We treat it like a game. And as we get closer, we send out weekly tips and tricks. And we keep it literally under a seal. Who's the winner? And people show up to find out who won.
I love it. I love it. We don't have too much time left, Tiffanie, but let's talk about like some of your big sponsors or partners that have been with you for a while. And then, your need for new sponsors, and then just basically, donations. I mean, you need money to keep going too. So we'll talk about all those avenues that people can participate.
Absolutely. So we would not be where we are today without the Destin Charity Wine Auction Foundation. And I say that all the time. They believed in me and in Food for Thought from the beginning. And, over the last 8 years of partnership, they've given us over $1 million.
Amazing.
They really poured into us when we needed it the most. Emerald's Foundation has been equally generous and helped us to build our culinary program, which is a wonderful program. And they've been with us for as many years. I think we're at 8 years with them as well. But then, it's the average person that donates $100 or $10. We're still able to feed a child for $5 a week. So it really counts what you give, but we equally need your 1 hour of volunteer service. So our volunteers, I had to do the math the other day for a grant. If we had to hire enough people to cover our volunteers, and we'd need 6 more full-time people, which I really cannot afford. So our volunteers are the heartbeat of our organization. And we have a availability for anybody to come in and volunteer. But we are a privately funded organization. We don't take state or federal funding. We raise all of our own local dollars and we pour that money into buying food. And we believe that we can empower children to get a better education if they're not sitting in their seat worrying about when they're going to eat again.
You are my hero.
Oh,
well. I mean, really, I am just blown away. So impressed by you and everything that you're doing, your passion that you have for it, and the longevity, the perseverance, because we were talking earlier that, things aren't easy. And, to keep going 11 years, you've got to overcome a lot of hurdles, and you have to stay the course and be determined to see it through to the end. And you continue to do that. And I am so amazed and impressed.
Well, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Well, thanks for being here. And let's see who's going to win this competition. Go to your website. Your website is
fftfl.org.
Okay. And come on, get going, everybody. Join the cause and Tiffanie and do whatever you need to do in your life. Tiffanie had a seed that was planted in her, and we all do have something to do. We were all put here on earth to do our thing. That's one thing that we were destined to do, and you found it. And, I just want to have that be a takeaway so that you can multiply what you did too, not only just in food, but to multiply other people to do what they're supposed to do in their walk, and I think that is just like such a key, gift, but watching you I'm a fan. I'm a really, really big fan.
Well, I think I'm an ordinary person that really has a lot of determination.
You do. Well, that's great. I don't think you're that ordinary. I think you're better than that. But all right. Well, everyone, thank you for watching VIE Speaks, Conversations with Heart and Soul. Tiffanie, thank you so much for being our guest. Lisa. Appreciate it. All right, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.